Earlier, we used normal tables. Then we used tasks to refresh data. Now, Snowflake introduced dynamic tables to make life easier. Dynamic table automatically refreshes data. In this video, I will explain dynamic tables deeply. I will also show you what we can do and what we cannot do. So, what is dynamic table? A dynamic table looks like a normal table, but we do not insert data into it. Snowflake fills it automatically. Okay, so it refreshes based on source data. So dynamic table is nothing but dynamic table equals to Snowflake logic plus automatic refresh. Okay, this is the key line. So now the question is why dynamic table exists. Okay, so earlier pipeline looked like this. Okay, it used to look like this, correct? So there would be some source table, then there will be some task to bring data, do some calculations or analytics over it, and then insert it into target table, right? But we had to then manage schedules, we had to manage dependencies, and here dynamic table remove this work for us. Snowflake manages the refresh of this particular dynamic table for us on behalf of us, right? So the headache is gone already. So how dynamic tables work? Okay, Snowflake will keep on looking for source tables. Okay, when source data changes, Snowflake will decide to refresh. Okay, refresh again, we are going to create a target lag, or I'm going to talk about this in some time, but Snowflake will refresh the data based on the target lag that we have created. Okay, and we don't have to trigger anything. Okay, so dynamic tables are data driven, not time driven. Okay, so let's so they, if we look at the basic syntax, like the syntax to create dynamic table would be more or less like this: create or replace dynamic table, then table name, and target lag 1 minute. Okay, this is the lag for which we want to, as soon as the data comes to source table on which this dynamic table is driving data from, after how much time we are going to refresh the data of this target dynamic table. Okay, so this one is defined here, and the warehouse that we're going to use to do this refresh, this all will be coming there. Okay, so target lag means how fresh data should be. Okay, and warehouse we can put it anything based on our requirement, that obviously the warehouse should be present in our system. Okay, so now let's start with the demo. Okay, so let me comment the codes here. So I'm going to create, let me choose a database here, to use public for now. Okay, so I'm going to create a table called orders raw. Okay, let me run this query. So table is created. Now let me insert some data to it. Okay, so I'm going to insert two rows here. Okay, nothing fancy, right? So let me run this query and select star from orders raw, and let me see data, right? So we have two rows here. Now we want to create a dynamic table using this orders raw table. Okay, so let's start it. Let's keep an eye on the syntax that I'm using. Okay, so my query will start like create or replace dynamic table, then the table name, let me call it order summary, and then it will come the target lag that I want to define. Let me create a target lag of 1 minute. Okay, as soon as the data refreshes or changes in source table, right? So it will wait for 1 minute and the data will be refreshed in our dynamic table. And warehouse, let me use the same warehouse that I'm using right now, that is compute warehouse. Okay, and let me now write the actual query, right, that I want to get inserted in this table, right? The data which is going to actually get refreshed in this order summary. Okay, so I'm creating summary, right? So what I'm going to write, I will just write some aggregate query here. Total orders, total orders, comma, sum of amount as total amount from orders raw. So orders raw is source for this dynamic table. Okay, now let me run this query. I think, okay, there's a typo error in source. Let me run this query again. Amount, typos. Okay, so let us check this whether we have this table in dynamic table here or not, right? So look at this. I created order raw. This one's the table order raw table here, and this one is the dynamic table that we have created, right? Order summary table. So look at this one, right? We have two columns and all, right? Okay, so now let me do a select star from orders raw. Okay, so what do you think will be the data that we have right now? We have, because we had already two rows present in the source table, right? Source table had two rows, so total order becomes 2, because count star will be 2, right? And total amount becomes 3, because check out this. So let me hide this one. Okay, so total order would be how much? 1 2, right? And total amount would be 200 plus 100 300, right? So order summary would be giving just that data, right? Only let me move this one. Total amount is 300, correct? Now looks like a normal table, right? Because till now you're thinking how is it dynamic, right? Because we created a table using create tables as select, right? As normal table we do the same, and the normal table would be also holding the same data, right? Now the magic start. Okay, let's start changing the data in source. Okay, so let me write insert into orders raw. Okay, values. Now I'm inserting data into our source table over which the dynamic table is created, right? 300, so 300 and the current date. Okay, so this is the new data that I'm inserting. Okay, now look at the raw table. Now it will be having 3 rows, right? Order raw, orders raw, it is holding 3 rows, right? Now look at the order summary table. Did you see the change here? As soon as we inserted data to the orders raw, since the maximum lag was 1 minute, right? Maximum lag was 1 minute. It modified our order table too, right? Because it's now looking for 3 rows, right? Total order became 3 here, and the sum of the amount became 600. Okay, let me pin this one so that you can check for the next modification. Let me insert one more rows, 400 and the current date, right? I'm inserting the data now. Let's again check that. Let's first check data to the orders raw. Now we have 4 rows, right? 4 rows, correct? Now let's look at the summary table. Now it became 4, right? Total orders 4 and total amount became 6,000, right? Previously it was 600, total amount was 600 and total orders were 3, right? So what happened, right? Data refreshed automatically. We do not had to create any task, right? Any task, whether the task was in Snowflake, Airflow, any task, right? We did not have to even schedule it, right? So this is the actual work of dynamic table. It keeps on refreshing the data automatically based on the target lag we have created. Now it's very important, right? Target lag. This, what is target lag? Okay, so target lag is very important, right? Target lag controls freshness. Okay, freshness means how fresh or how new the data is. So example, let me give you 3 examples here, right? Three examples here. So if I set target lag is equal to 1 minute, so it would be like near real time, right? as soon as I insert my data into source, the dynamic table will keep updating it, correct? And if I put 10 minutes, so obviously if I am putting 1 minute, right, every time it will refresh, so they would be cost, right? Because the frequency of refreshes would be more, right? Hence the cost would be also more, right? And if I think, okay, I do not need very real time data, like as soon as the data changes I have to refresh it, so I can put a little bit of delay to like 10 minutes. It's kind of balanced, right? And 1 hour, then we can also schedule 1 hour batch schedule, right? It will as soon as data is available in source, the refresh can happen even till 1 hour, right? Even after 1 hour, like within 1 hour. Okay, so a smaller the smaller the lag is, the more compute cost would be, obviously, and the bigger lag would be, it would be less cost, right? Because the smaller lag means more, we have to, the running frequency would be much higher, right? That's why the cost would be higher. So now the important topic here is what queries are allowed in dynamic tables. Okay, so we can use, let me bring it here for you. So we can use these things, right? We can use select, obviously, we can use join, we can use filter by where, we can use group by, we can use having, we can use case, we can use case when statements, we can use aggregations, we can use cities, we can use multiple source table into this one, we can use even use views, right? But let me give you a sample allowed query. Okay, so we can create dynamic table using this sample query, right? Like customer ID, then we created some aggregation from orders from, and the group by, right? We use some aggregations here, we use group by, right? So but there's also some limitations of dynamic tables. You cannot use everything in dynamic table. Okay, there are some limitations that dynamic table does not support everything, right? So dynamic tables does not support insert statements, obviously, because we are not inserting data, we are not allowed to insert data into dynamic table, right? We are only allowed to write select statement, which Snowflake will use to replace it, right? We cannot use update statements, obviously. And then then merge will be not allowed, because merge is again an extension of update statements, right? Obviously not exact extension, but it had update, delete and all, right? Then we cannot use truncate statements. We cannot call procedures using dynamic tables, right? And yeah, and also remember, right, dynamic tables are kind of read only. You cannot insert data into it. The dynamic tables are read only, obviously, and only select statement logic is allowed. Okay, and also you cannot use pivot and unpivot in select query for dynamic tables. Okay, this is very important, because when you will be creating it, it will give you error that pivot or unpivot is not supported in dynamic tables. Cool. Okay, and also delete statements are not uh, allowed, right? Okay, now the question here is, can we change dynamic tables, right? Can we create dynamic table over dynamic table? Is it doable? So yep, the answer is yes, we can create tables using the dynamic tables. Okay, let us go through an example. So I have this code with me right now pre-written, that I'm creating a table order cleans. Okay, where I'm just selecting where order is greater than equal to 1, and let me decrease the lag amount here, lag time here. So this will be expected 10. What is uh okay, unexpected 10 ish. Are you able to see any error here? Because I cannot. Okay, I think this is the issue. Okay, so yeah, so I created a dynamic table called order screen, right? It's not doing nothing but selecting orders from order raw where amount is greater than 0. Okay, now I will be creating a dynamic table orders aggregation over this orders a clean dynamic table, okay, where I'm doing nothing but I'm just taking aggregation of all of the sums, all of the amounts. I'm doing sum, right? Let me just run this one. Missing column as, okay, sum amount. Okay, so it says the dynamic table created successfully, right? Now let me try inserting again. Let me just look at this orders clean table, okay. Select a star from orders clean. So it has 4 rows, obviously, because the orders raw table has 4 rows, okay. Now let us look at the orders ag table. Okay, so it has some of amount as 1000, which makes sense, right? Now let's go and insert data in orders raw. I had a query here somewhere upside, for instance. Yeah, let me insert some data. Just keep an eye on this one, right? We had some amount of thousand, right? Now let me insert some rows here, and let me make it 1000 again. 1000, and let me increment this id. Let me run this one, okay. Now look at orders clean. It has 4 rows still. Didn't refresh till now. Okay, my bad. I think let me make it 1 minute here again, because it was yeah. Now look at the order screen table. It has now 5 rows, right? So it was able to pull data from refresh data from using orders ag. Now orders raw. Now look at the orders ag. What happened to orders ag, right? The sum amount became 2000. So it's like I'm going to put data into orders raw, using orders clean dynamic table will update, will refresh, right? And using this, as soon as this table dynamic table refreshes, because the time lag of orders ag is also 1 minute, this one will be refreshing, right? So this is kind of dependency right now we have. So right, dynamic tables are simple, right? It gives us control over the freshness of data, so we don't have to like keep on looking for the, when data arrives, when data, like we don't have to create any tasks to keep on looking up at the freshness, right? As soon as we have the data, the dynamic table will refresh, right? Now when you should use dynamic table when you have one SQL only logic, right? You are trying to create some logic which has SQL only, right? And the dependencies are very very clear, right? It should not be super complex, obviously, because if they it should not be super complex, because if the queries are very super complex, the dynamic table will be switched to full refresh mode, not incremental mode, right? Okay, so let us repeat what we learned here, okay. So dynamic tables reduce pipeline complexity, obviously, because we don't have to manage any task to refresh the data, okay. They are data driven, okay. As soon as the data for the source table over which the order dynamic table has been created refreshes, the dynamic table will also get their data refreshed, right? And they are best for SQL pipelines. So dynamic tables make a Snowflake pipeline faster, but they are not for every use case, obviously. So yeah, so I hope you have learned something in this video. If you liked my video, please subscribe to my channel, and feel free to give any feedback. Thank you. Bye bye.